I stared at the ceiling of my hospital room, feeling the cold IV drip in my arm. The words had just left my mouth. Late-stage lymphoma. My family sat around me like vultures waiting for carrion. Mom, my brother Noel, his wife Tanya, cousin Liam, and Aunt Grace. For 10 years, I'd paid for their lives. Their houses, cars, vacations, fake jobs at my real estate company. I expected hugs, tears. Something that showed they cared about me, not my money. Instead, Noel leaned forward and asked, "Does the cancer change your will?" Tanya nodded eagerly. "We should know your wishes." Mom didn't even touch my hand. She just sighed. "You should have frozen your eggs earlier." Nobody looked at me. They were already planning my funeral and their inheritance. My heart shattered. These people had never loved me. They loved my bank account. That night, after they left, I made a decision. I called my assistant Brittany. "Call my lawyer," I whispered. "We're about to test who they really are." I was done being their cash cow. Time to see their true colors. I grew up in a trailer park with Mom and Noel. Dad died when I was 12. We had nothing. I worked 3 jobs through high school, saved every penny for college. Real estate became my passion. By 25, I owned my first building. By 30, I had an empire worth $50 million. Then my family showed up. Noel claimed his business failed. He needed $200,000 or he'd lose everything. I gave it to him. Later, I found out he'd lied. There was no business. He spent my money on gambling and a new truck. Mom said her apartment was too small. I bought her a house. Tanya complained about her job. I created a fake position for her at my company. Liam needed tuition money. Grace wanted a car. One by one, they attached themselves to my success like leeches. I told myself they were family. Family helps family. But lying in that hospital bed, hearing Noel ask about my will, I realized the truth. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a walking ATM. For 10 years, I'd been their golden goose. Now they thought I was dying, and they could hardly contain their excitement. The next morning, I told my family I needed to go to Switzerland for experimental treatment. It was the only hope I had left. They all hugged me goodbye, but I saw relief in their eyes. Relief that I'd be gone soon. I didn't go to Switzerland. Instead, I drove to my secret lakehouse 3 hours away. Only Brittany and my lawyer knew the truth. I'd bought this place under a fake name 2 years ago. Nobody in my family even knew it existed. From my hideout, I could watch everything. My smart home system recorded conversations in all the properties I owned. My security cameras captured their every move. My financial monitoring showed every dollar they spent. I settled into my chair with a cup of coffee and opened my laptop. Time to see what they really thought of their dying cash cow. The first thing I did was create a fake will. I made sure each family member would get just enough money to make them greedy, but not enough to share nicely. Then I had my lawyer accidentally leak the will to them. Let the games begin. The fake will hit them like a bomb. I watched through my security cameras as Brittany delivered copies to each family member. Mom got the house and $2 million. Noel got my main biz and $3 million. Tanya got $1 million and my car collection. Liam got my stock portfolio worth $2 million. Grace got my jewelry and $1 million. Within hours, the fighting started. I listened through the smart speakers as Mom called Noel, screaming that he shouldn't get the business since he never worked for it. Noel yelled back that she didn't deserve the house because she never supported Jane's career. Tanya called Grace, crying that $1 million wasn't enough for all the years I spent working for Jane. Grace shot back that Tanya's job was fake anyway. They weren't mourning me. They were fighting over my corpse like hyenas. I poured another coffee and smiled grimly. Not one of them had called to ask how my treatment was going. Not one had sent flowers or a card. Their true faces were finally showing. But this was just the beginning of my test. Noel moved fast. 3 days after getting the fake will, he showed up at my lawyer's office. He claimed he needed power of attorney because I was too sick to make decisions. My lawyer, who was in on the plan, secretly recorded everything. "Look," Noel said, leaning across the desk. "Jane's not thinking clearly. The cancer has probably spread to her brain. Someone needs to take control before she gives all her money to charity or something crazy." He tried to forge my signature on legal documents. My lawyer stopped him, but we had it all on camera. Later that day, Noel called Mom. I listened through the smart speakers in her kitchen. The lawyer won't give me power of attorney, he complained. But I found a guy who can help us get around that. We just need to prove Jane's mentally incompetent. How do we do that? Mom asked. Easy. We say the cancer affected her brain, get some doctors to back us up, then I take control of everything. I shook my head in disgust. My own brother was planning to have me declared insane so he could steal my money while I was still alive. Tanya had her own plan. She'd always flirted with my CFO, Marcus. Now she was turning up the charm. She invited him to lunch, wearing a tight dress and too much perfume. I watched through the restaurant's security camera. Marcus had agreed to help me by wearing a wire. Jane's really sick, Tanya said, touching Marcus's hand. She probably won't make it back from Switzerland. Marcus played along. That's terrible. She's so young. Between you and me, Tanya leaned closer, I think she'd want someone she trusted to handle her finances, someone who knows what she'd want. She was trying to seduce him into giving her access to my accounts. I could help you transfer some funds, she whispered. You know, to keep them safe while she's gone. We could split a small percentage for our trouble. Marcus nodded seriously. How much are we talking about? Maybe $5 million to start. Jane would never notice. I had to hand it to Tanya. She wasn't just planning to wait for my death. She wanted to rob me while I was still breathing. Marcus agreed to meet her later to discuss details. Aunt Grace was the biggest surprise. She seemed like the sweetest of my family members. Always bringing cookies, always asking about my health. But people show their true selves when they think nobody's watching. I'd hired an actress named Sarah to pose as Grace's new neighbor. Sarah befriended Grace and invited her over for wine. After 2 glasses, Grace started talking. My niece Jane is dying, she said, not sounding sad at all. Cancer. She's probably got 6 months tops. Oh no, Sarah gasped. That's terrible. Grace waved her hand dismissively. Well, she lived a good life, made tons of money, never had kids to spend it on. She pulled out her phone and showed Sarah pictures of my house. This is going to be mine soon, Grace said, scrolling through photos. I'm already planning renovations, new kitchen, new bathrooms, maybe a pool. But isn't she still alive? Sarah asked carefully. Grace shrugged. For now. But honestly, it'll be easier when she's gone. No more pretending to care about her boring real estate stories. I sat in my lake house, listening to the recording Sarah had made. My own aunt planning my house renovations while I was supposedly dying. While I was in Switzerland, Liam got creative. He started renting out my properties on Airbnb without permission. I watched through security cameras as strangers carried suitcases into my downtown loft. Liam had listed it for $300 a night. He was making thousands in cash while telling everyone he was managing Jane's properties to help pay for her medical bills. But Liam got sloppy. He forgot about my smart locks. One morning, I changed all the lock codes remotely. When Liam showed up with new guests, he couldn't get in. I watched him panic, calling a locksmith and making excuses to the confused tourists. Then I called the guests directly from a burner phone. Hi, this is Jane Rivers, the property owner, I said. I'm sorry for the confusion. My cousin doesn't have permission to rent my home, but you can stay for free if you do me one small favor. What's that? The guest asked. Just tell me everything my cousin says and does while you're there. The guests were happy to spy for free accommodation. They reported that Liam bragged about inheriting all my properties soon. He even brought dates over, claiming he was a soon-to-be millionaire real estate mogul. Brittany was my only hope in this mess. She'd worked for me for 5 years, starting as a receptionist and working her way up to my personal assistant. When Noel couldn't get power of attorney legally, he tried bribing her. Look, Brittany, he said, cornering her in the office. Jane's dying. We both know it. When she's gone, I'll be running this company. I could use someone loyal. He slid an envelope across her desk. There's $50,000 in there. Cash! Just get me copies of Jane's medical records and bank statements. Brittany stared at the envelope. $50,000 was more money than she'd ever seen at once. I need to think about it, she said. Noel smiled. Take your time, but remember, Jane won't be around to protect you much longer. Better to be on the winning side. After he left, Brittany called me immediately. He tried to bribe me, she said, her voice shaking. $50,000. What did you tell him? Then I'd think about it. But Jane, I would never. I know, I said. You're the only person I trust. Which is why I'm promoting to vice president, effective immediately, and I need your help with the final phase of my plan. Mom outdid herself with pure greed. She created a GoFundMe page titled, "Help Jane Fight Cancer." The description was heartbreaking. My daughter is battling for her life in Switzerland. The experimental treatments are expensive, and our family is struggling to help her. She posted photos of me from years ago, looking thin and tired after a business trip. She claimed they were recent pictures showing my battle with cancer. Within a week, the page raised $30,000 from kind strangers who wanted to help a dying woman. But Mom didn't send the money to Switzerland. She didn't even call to ask if I needed help with medical bills. Instead, she bought a new Mercedes. I watched through the dealership's security camera as she test drove the car. She told the salesman her daughter had just died and left her money. I was still alive, supposedly fighting for my life overseas, and she was already spending my death money. The worst part? I anonymously donated $5,000 to her GoFundMe myself, just to see what she'd do. She bought designer clothes and went to a spa. Her own daughter was dying, and she treated it like winning the lottery. After a month of watching from afar, I decided to take a risk. I put on a blonde wig, sunglasses, and different clothes. Then I drove to Mom's house. I parked across the street and watched through her kitchen window. She was on the phone, pacing around the room. The funeral should be small, she was saying. Jane never had many real friends anyway. Just business associates. I crept closer to the window. I'll give a speech about how hard it was watching her work herself to death, Mom continued. How she never made time for family. People will feel sorry for us. She was practicing my eulogy. While I was supposedly still alive, I pulled out my phone and left a note on her kitchen counter while she was distracted. Just 5 words, but ones that would shake her. Greed destroys everything it touches. It was something Dad used to say when he saw people being selfish. Mom would know exactly who wrote it. I drove away and waited for her to find it. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from her. Is someone in my house? Who would know that saying? I didn't reply. Let her wonder. Next, I sent each family member a special gift, a free therapy session with a grief counselor to help them deal with my illness. What they didn't know was that these weren't real therapists. They were forensic psychologists trained to evaluate people's true character. Each family member went to their appointment, thinking they were getting free help to cope with losing me. Instead, they poured their hearts out about how much they resented me. Noel told his therapist that I was controlling and manipulative. She acts like she's so generous, but she just wants power over us, he said. Tanya complained that I never appreciated her work. I've been planning to quit anyway. Her death might be a blessing. Mom said I was cold and distant. Jane never really loved anyone. Money was her only friend. The psychologists recorded everything legally. They also gave each family member a psychological evaluation. The results were damning. Narcissistic tendencies, lack of empathy, manipulative behavior patterns. If this ever went to court, I'd have professional documentation of their true nature. But the sessions revealed something else too. None of them showed any genuine grief about losing me. They were annoyed by the inconvenience of my dying, not heartbroken. Time for the real test. I had my lawyer freeze all my accounts for reassessment of assets during medical treatment. Within 24 hours, chaos erupted. Tanya's credit cards were declined at a restaurant. She called Brittany, screaming that there must be a mistake. Liam couldn't pay his bills because his fake salary from my company was suspended. Grace's rent check bounced because I'd been secretly paying her landlord directly. Mom's new Mercedes payment was due, but she couldn't access the GoFundMe money she'd already spent. I watched through security cameras as panic spread through my family. They'd gotten so used to my money that they couldn't survive a week without it. Noel drove to the office, demanding answers from Brittany. "Where's the money?" he yelled. "Jane's dying and you're playing games with our inheritance." Brittany calmly explained that all accounts were frozen pending legal review. "This is insane," Noel shouted. "I'm her brother, I should have access." But he didn't, and for the first time in 10 years, my family had to face real consequences for their dependence on me. They weren't grieving my illness. They were panicking about their money supply being cut off. The financial pressure broke Noel first. 3 days after the account freeze, he got drunk and called Grace. I listened through her smart speaker as he rambled angrily. You know what the truth is, Grace? Jane was never really family. She was a wallet, a walking, talking ATM machine. Noel, you shouldn't say things like that. Why not? It's true. She bought us all like pets, kept us around to make herself feel important. Well, guess what? The cash cow is finally dying and we deserve every penny. He laughed bitterly. I should get more than everyone else. I'm her brother. I put up with her controlling behavior the longest. Grace tried to calm him down, but Noel kept talking. Remember when we were kids and she'd lord her good grades over me? Now look who's winning. She'll be dead, and I'll be rich. I saved the recording. Noel had just confessed that he saw me as nothing more than a source of money. When he sobered up the next day, he tried calling Grace back to clarify what he'd said. But it was too late. I had his true feelings recorded forever. Time to reveal another secret. I owned a massive ranch in Montana that my family didn't know about. I'd bought it 2 years earlier under a shell company. 300 acres of beautiful land with a main house, guest cabins, and horse stables. But here's the twist. I'd already transferred ownership to Brittany. When my lawyer accidentally mentioned the ranch during a phone call with Noel, the news spread through my family like wildfire. Jane has a ranch worth $10 million, Tanya told Grace. Why didn't she tell us? They started fighting over who deserved the ranch. Mom claimed she should get it because she raised me. Noel said he deserved it as the only son. Grace argued that she'd been the most supportive aunt. For 3 days they argued and schemed about the Montana property. Then my lawyer dropped the bomb. The ranch was no longer mine. I'd given it to Brittany as a bonus for her loyal service. The silence on the family group chat was deafening. Finally, Noel exploded. She gave away $10 million to her assistant? Mom called the lawyer's office, demanding to know what other assets I'd given away without telling them. They were learning that their inheritance wasn't as guaranteed as they'd thought. Tanya got desperate. When bribing Marcus failed and the account stayed frozen, she decided to destroy my reputation. She contacted a local news reporter, claiming she had a story about elder abuse in the business community. My sister-in-law, Jane Rivers, is a real estate mogul, she told the reporter, but she's been emotionally abusing her family for years. She painted me as a narcissistic control freak who used money to manipulate people. She made us all dependent on her, then threatened to cut us off whenever we disagreed with her, Tanya lied. She's probably faking this cancer for attention. The reporter seemed interested and scheduled an interview. What Tanya didn't know was that this reporter was actually another actress I'd hired. During the fake interview, Tanya revealed her true feelings about me. Honestly, if she really does have cancer, it might be karma, she said. Jane's been toxic our whole relationship. The family will be better off without her. She also admitted to trying to access my financial accounts illegally. I was just trying to protect the family assets, she claimed. Jane's not thinking clearly because of the cancer. The fake reporter nodded sympathetically while recording every word. I gave Brittany temporary power of attorney while I was supposedly in Switzerland. This meant she could make legal decisions on my behalf. Her first action was serving cease and desist orders to my entire family. Noel was ordered to stop attempting to access my accounts or forge my signature. Tanya was banned from contacting my employees or spreading false stories about me. Liam was prohibited from using my properties without permission. Grace was warned to stop planning renovations on assets that weren't hers yet. Mom was required to return the GoFundMe money or face fraud charges. Each family member received their legal notice by certified mail. Within hours, my phone was buzzing with angry calls and texts. "How dare your assistant threaten us?" Mom screamed in a voicemail. "This is harassment." Noel texted, but the legal notices worked. They stopped their most obvious schemes and started being more careful, which made them even more desperate and reckless in other ways. I instructed my lawyer to spread a rumor. My assets might go to auction to pay for medical bills. The family panicked. If my properties were sold publicly, they'd lose everything. Suddenly, each family member started scrambling to raise money to help with Jane's medical expenses. But instead of pooling their resources, they turned on each other. Noel tried to sell Grace's jewelry that I'd given her years ago. Tanya attempted to take out loans, using Liam's car as collateral. Mom wanted to sell the house I'd bought her to contribute to Jane's care. They started fighting over who should sacrifice what. I already gave up my apartment, Tanya yelled during a family meeting I watched through security cameras. Well, I've been managing Jane's properties for free. Liam shot back. I raised her. Mom screamed. I deserve consideration. They were like crabs in a bucket, pulling each other down instead of working together. I watched them destroy each other while claiming they wanted to help me. It was both heartbreaking and satisfying. The pressure finally cracked Grace. During another wine session with my actress neighbor, she broke down crying. I can't do this anymore, she sobbed. I feel so guilty. About what? Sarah asked gently. About Jane. We've all been so focused on the money that we forgot she's actually dying. She's my niece. I helped raise her after her father died. Grace admitted that she'd always been jealous of my success. I wanted what she had so badly. The money, the respect, the power. When she started supporting us all, I felt like I deserved it because life had been unfair to me. She confessed to planning renovations on my house while I was sick. But lately, I keep thinking about when she was little. She was such a sweet kid, always trying to take care of everyone. What if she really is dying alone in Switzerland while we fight over her money? For the first time, Grace showed real remorse. I think we've all become monsters, she whispered. Sarah comforted her while secretly recording everything. Grace was the first family member to show any genuine emotion about losing me as a person, not just an ATM. My family tried to sue Brittany, claiming she was manipulating a dying woman and stealing assets. They hired a lawyer and filed papers accusing her of elder abuse and financial manipulation. The lawsuit was a disaster for them. During depositions, they had to answer questions under oath about their relationship with me. Noel admitted he'd never visited me in the hospital after the cancer announcement. Tanya confessed to trying to bribe my CFO. Mom was forced to explain the GoFundMe money. Liam had to discuss his illegal Airbnb rentals. Their own lawyer started looking uncomfortable as the truth came out. Meanwhile, Brittany's lawyer presented evidence of their schemes. Recordings, financial records, witness statements. The judge dismissed their lawsuit and warned them about filing frivolous claims. It appears the plaintiff's real concern is access to Ms. Rivers' money, not her well-being, the judge stated. They left the courthouse humiliated and facing potential legal consequences for their own actions. For my final test, I decided to come home. But they couldn't know it was really me. I arranged for Brittany to host a memorial dinner at my estate. She told my family it was to celebrate Jane's life and discuss final arrangements. I hired a makeup artist to age me and change my appearance. Gray hair, wrinkles, different clothes. I looked like a distant relative they'd never met. Brittany introduced me as Jane's great-aunt Martha from Colorado, who'd come to help with the estate. My family bought the disguise completely. During dinner, they talked freely, thinking they were among sympathizers. Jane was always difficult, Mom told Martha. She never understood how hard it was for us to depend on her moods. She controlled us with money, Noel added. We're actually relieved this is almost over. Hidden cameras captured every word. Tanya complained about having to attend my funeral. Liam joked about finally being free. Grace sat quietly, looking guilty. For 3 hours, I listened to my family discuss my character, my death, and their inheritance plans. They had no idea they were confessing to my face. After dinner, I excused myself and went upstairs to freshen up. Instead, I removed my disguise and put on my regular clothes. Then I walked back downstairs as myself. The looks on their faces were priceless. Noel dropped his wine glass. Tanya's mouth fell open. Mom turned white as a sheet. Surprise, I said calmly. I'm not dead. I'm not even sick. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then the denials started. Jane, thank God you're okay. Mom rushed toward me, but I stepped back. We were so worried, Tanya added. This is wonderful news, Noel said, but his voice shook. I pulled out my phone and played the recordings. Their own voices filled the room. She was never family. She was a wallet. We're actually relieved this is almost over. Jane was always difficult. I showed them security footage of their schemes. Noelle trying to forge my signature. Tanya attempting to seduce Marcus. Liam renting my properties. Mom buying a Mercedes with donation money. I've been watching everything, I said quietly. For 2 months, you've shown me exactly who you really are. I pulled out my real will and read it aloud. To my family, who spent 10 years living off my generosity while planning my funeral, you get nothing. Noel started to protest, but I held up my hand. Every property goes to charity or loyal employees. My business goes to Brittany, who's the only person who refused to betray me. I looked at each of their shocked faces. However, I'm not completely heartless. Each of you will receive $25,000 per year for life, but only if you meet certain conditions. The conditions were simple. Get a real job, pay your own rent, and submit to yearly character evaluations. If you can prove you've become decent human beings, you'll continue receiving the money. If you scheme, lie, or try to manipulate anyone for financial gain, the payments stop forever. Mom started crying. Jane, you can't do this to family. You're not my family, I said firmly. Family doesn't measure love in dollar signs. Family doesn't plan renovations while you're dying. Family doesn't create fake fundraisers or try to steal from you. I stood up to leave. You have 1 year to get your lives together. After that, we'll see who you really choose to be. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Noel tried to contest the will, but my lawyers had prepared for that. All his attempted fraud was documented and admissible in court. Tanya moved back in with her parents and got a job at a call center. She lasted 3 weeks before quitting, claiming the work was beneath her. Mom sold the Mercedes and downsized to a small apartment. She started working part-time at a grocery store. Liam disappeared completely. Last I heard, he'd moved to another state and cut contact with everyone. Grace surprised me. She got counseling, found a job at a local charity, and sent me a long letter apologizing for her behavior. Some of them tried. Some didn't. Some fell apart completely when they couldn't manipulate others for money anymore. But I had something more valuable than revenge. I had the truth. I also secretly paid for therapy sessions for each of them. Not because I owed them anything, but because I hoped they might actually change. Whether they took advantage of that help was up to them. Today, I live in a small mountain town where nobody knows about my wealth. I invest in women-owned businesses and fund scholarships for kids from poor families. Brittany has doubled my company's value. She's everything I hoped she'd be: honest, smart, and loyal. My family? Grace sends me Christmas cards and has kept her job for 8 months. She might actually earn her annual payment. Mom works part-time and lives quietly. She seems humbler, though I'm not sure if it's genuine change or just defeat. Noel and Tanya haven't changed at all. They still blame me for their problems and plot ways to get their money back. But here's the thing. I'm richer than ever, and finally free. For 10 years, I thought buying their love would make me happy. I thought if I gave them enough, they'd truly care about me. The cancer scare taught me the truth. You can't buy real love. You can only reveal who people really are when they think your money is on the table. My simple test saved me from a lifetime of being used. And that's worth more than all the money in the world.